All right, guys, back to work. Weekend is over already. Let's make some money this week. Boy, markets are grinding higher. Had a big inflation data coming in later this week. But I'll tell you, this one very important, very simple clue on the 60-minute time frame that tells us this slow grind higher might be nothing more than a bull trap. So I got some reversals on my radar for tomorrow. Got some nice deep pullback by the dips on my radar for tomorrow. I got long trades, short trades, and as always, I'm going to cover my favorite trades in the video tonight that we have a game plan to make some money on Tuesday. Before we jump in, though, and get the party going tonight, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss tomorrow night's video. And if you enjoyed this lesson tonight, if you like these videos, do me a favor, will you? Hit that like button for me and give me a shout out, give me a holler down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for tuning in, sticking around. I know a bit late tonight. It was a busy day. Rollover was today, but that's all right, though. Let's get this video going. We get some great trades we're tracking here for tomorrow. Now, starting off on the 60-minute chart on the S&P and the Nasdaq. Remember, guys, I like to use the 60-minute time frame to plan my trades for the following day. But don't you worry, later on in the video, we're going to drill down to some tick charts. Tick charts are excellent for entry timing. We'll use the tick charts later in the video to time the perfect entries for tomorrow as well. So what are these 60-minute time frames telling us right now? Well, there's one very important clue here on the 60-minute. Now, we'll pick up we left off last week. We are still overall bullish into trading ranges right now on both the S&P and the Nasdaq. And we talked about this a lot last week. At this point, we're anticipating this deep pullback and a run back up into that trading range. So buyers definitely have control overall. But let's dig in a bit deeper, though, because what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the market slowly grind its way higher here on both the S&P and the Nasdaq. Now, in my free trading classes and in our trade room, we talk about this scenario all the time and how the best entries in these kind of slow grinds like this are usually going to be what? They're usually going to be traps. They're usually going to be getting in below these prior swings. And so as we grind higher right now, as the market grinds higher, we really have to be careful chasing it as it moves higher, because it's safe to assume right now the most amount of buyers are probably waiting below all these prior swings, because the buyers don't want to buy high, they want to buy low as we make our move back up into that range overhead on both the S&P and the Nasdaq. So I love the idea of buying some deep pullbacks tomorrow. I got a bunch of those on my radar we'll talk about here in a moment. But at the same time, though, there's probably money to make with some bull traps, maybe some crown reversals off the high here. So I like the idea of some shorts, love the idea of some longs, and we're going to cover all these details, but that's kind of my game plan, my overall game plan here for tomorrow. Now, before we drill down into those tick charts and talk about how to capitalize on some bull traps and really some bear traps too. There's a lot of good traps on our radar for tomorrow. Let's double check the schedule for tomorrow, because there are a couple things that I want you to be aware of. There's no major news on the schedule for tomorrow, but we do have two things you want to be aware of. First of all, we have a big Apple event at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow afternoon, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't usually get too much into these Apple events, but we heard about the situation with Apple iPhones being banned in China. Was it last week? Week before that? We know Apple has the potential to move the Nasdaq around, and they're supposed to be releasing some very interesting updates to their iPhone, their AirPads, and supposedly rolling out a new charging cable. I'm not going to get in the weeds on that, but that's definitely something I'm watching for tomorrow, and the rest of the Nasdaq might also be watching that as well. And also, too, don't forget, on Wednesday, we have arguably one of the biggest news reports of the month, that CPI report, which means tomorrow afternoon, just be careful after lunch tomorrow. Tomorrow may feel a bit weird tomorrow afternoon as the Apple announcement comes out, and of course everyone kind of looking forward to that CPI number coming on Thursday. Not to worry, tomorrow morning we'll be in our trade room, finding trades, making the most of it with that smaller window we have tomorrow morning. So be aware of that. The Apple event in the afternoon, tough to tell how much that will impact the markets. We'll definitely be watching that tomorrow afternoon. And again, specifically tomorrow afternoon, be careful ahead of that CPI number, which is expected to be a very big announcement ahead of the FOMC announcement we have coming next week. Now, back to our charts, though, because the news is good to know when it is, but the money is made on the charts. Why don't we go over now my favorite trades here on the S&P and the Nasdaq? Let's start first tonight on the E-mini or the SPY. And we'll wrap things up, as always, on the NASDAQ and the QQQs. As I mentioned in the introduction, we are overall bullish into a trading range. And like I mentioned, we got that deep pullback last week. The bears got trapped. We never really got that squeeze. We never really got that strong, forceful squeeze we're kind of hoping for last week. We slowly keep on rolling higher here right now. And again, like I said, I'll bet there's a lot of buyers waiting below these lows here. And I do believe that's going to give us some chances here to use overhead resistance to look for some bull traps during the pullback. Right, we may not get a full-blown reversal, right, but we'd love to get some bull traps, right, to short off these highs, and I think there's probably money to make on both sides of this market. That's what the 60-minute chart is telling us. Now let's drill down and look at the tick chart. The tick chart, this is a 7,000 tick chart, upper left-hand corner. We use tick charts in our trade room every morning because tick charts make the entries a whole lot easier. And by the way, this is the 21 EMA if you're watching here for the first time here this evening. There is one very obvious clue here on this tick chart, and it basically gives us 3 different ways to make money here for tomorrow. It's a bullish market into a trading range. Now, you guys know this. If you're taking my free trading classes right now, you guys know that ranges are magnets. And they love to rotate. They'll rotate up, they'll rotate down, rotate up, and rotate down. And there's money to make selling off the high, buying off the low, selling off the high, and buying off the low. So that will be a big part of our game plan. I definitely think there's potential for some bull traps and reversals off the high. And I would love to scoop these up again because on the 60-minute, we're trying to buy as low as we can right now. So I love the idea of selling high and buying low. I'm going to go over a couple different entry patterns we can use to buy low and sell high as we go deeper into the video. The next thing too is that when we have a trading range like this, breakout pullbacks, we talk a lot about breakout pullbacks on these videos in the range. If we can get that breakout into pullback, right? The NASDAQ has something like this setting up right now as well. Again, I think as we go higher, I think there's ways to make money on the pullback, and I definitely like the idea of buying that breakout pullback as well. So again, we're trading rotation back and forth and trading those breakout pullbacks. Plenty of ways to make money tomorrow morning with us in the trade room. Now, let's talk about this. Let's kind of go into more detail here right now on how to, for example, how do we trade this rotation back and forth? Well, the first one is pretty simple. We're a bullish overall market in a bullish 60-minute time frame as well. So whenever I want to sell short in a bullish market like this, there's one entry pattern I like to look for, which is called a crown reversal. It's a very simple pattern. If you're taking my free trading classes right now, this will wrap together the failure pattern and a trap pattern. Imagine now the buyers coming in and trying to buy into these highs, right? They try once, they try twice. When the buyers get roped in like this, all of their stops now become fuel to turn this thing and roll this thing back down again. Remember, it's an overall bull market, so the best way to short something is not to simply try to guess and pick the top. It's to trap in some buyers, and then, again, I call these crown reversal patterns, and look for that nice strong red candle closing firmly below the moving average and that run going back down. Again, if you're taking the free classes right now, the free course right now, it's a two-try failure with a bull trap. Now, we may not get that beautiful crown reversal. Sometimes the market will roll over and begin to run lower like this. If it runs lower like this, this becomes pretty simple. You want to make sure you sell as high as you can, right? Because as we go lower, who's waiting down there? Who's waiting down here in a bull market? Yeah, buyers are, right? So as we go lower, we want to sell as high as we can. And this one simple pattern, you guys know this one simple pattern that we'll look for whenever we're trying to sell as high as possible. And again, it's a bull trap. Now, on something like this, I'm always looking for channels off the lows like this and then up around that high. These are one of my favorite trades in a range bound market as we try to trade that rotation back and forth. So both of those techniques, either up, 1, 2, trap high and back down, right? Notice how I draw this: lower low in price and that trap high, right? Lower low and that trap high, that's a crown reversal. And then as we roll lower, right, look for that bull trap, get that good signal, close below the moving average. That's our short, right, as we come down off the high. And remember too, if you're watching for the first time right now, I teach all of these patterns in our free trading classes. What I'll do is, if you haven't taken the free course yet, I'll put a link up here for you in the upper right hand corner. Grab that link, take that free trading course, because I'll tell you, the strategy I teach in that video series will teach you a simple trick that we use every morning in our members trade room to know exactly where the best winning trades are going to be that day. It's an easy roadmap, and most importantly, you'll learn my 4 favorite entry patterns to help kickstart you making money. If you're missing too many good trades right now, if you're taking too many losses, hit that link up there, take that free trading course. It's perfect for someone trying to make the jump into full-time trading. I have hundreds of examples of things like crown reversals, right? And of course, if we do end up rolling lower here, how to find channels, right? And then mark up those swings and grab those bull traps as we go. And keep in mind too, if for some reason you can't grab that link up there, I'll put all the important links that you need here, especially for the free classes, down in the description of the YouTube video. So grab those if you need to. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to talk about how to buy down here. Okay, this is ideally where some of the best trades could be tomorrow. Like I mentioned earlier, we have to assume the buyers are trying to buy as low as we can right now. So I love the idea of being a buyer down there. Now you know how I want to short this sucker going lower. But let's just talk about if we go higher here, because I mean, let's face it, there's still a pretty good chance here. It doesn't seem like it right now, but who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows what's happened? This thing may rip, right? It may squeeze back up into that trading range, right? So let's get ready for that here real quickly. That way you know how to trade this if we do end up ripping higher here. Now there are, again, like I mentioned earlier, if we do go higher, I'm kind of looking for that breakout pullback, right? That breakout pullback of that trading range. There are ways to make money on the way up. There's ways to make money during the pullback, and there's ways to make money on the breakout pullback. Now, as we go higher here, my favorite way to always trade a breakout is with a bear trap, because you don't want to buy very high, right? You want to buy as low as you can. So if we do get that, if the market keeps on going higher here overnight, the pattern I'll be looking for tomorrow morning will be looking for those bear traps as we go higher, because I want to make sure I'm buying as low as I possibly can. Then once we start getting, for example, oftentimes on a range like this, the breakout leg is the measuring leg. That will give us a bit of overhead resistance. Once we get up into overhead resistance now we don't want to buy up here, right? We don't want to buy high. Like I said, if there's one thing we don't want to do until we get some more confirmation later on this week, we don't want to be chasing it and buying higher. So as we start going higher, what do you think? Will we get some buyers come in like on Friday last week? I know a bunch of you guys grabbed that beautiful bull trap we talked about, not last night, but last Thursday night for that short off the high. If you watched last Thursday night's video, I know a bunch of you guys grabbed that. But this is that same crown reversal pattern, right? That same crown reversal. Let's see if we can get buyers to come in and chase it going higher. Remember, at this point, we're looking for a breakout pullback, right? A breakout pullback. So not a great spot to be a buyer. I'm also a little bit too bullish to try to pick a top. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of picking tops in a bull market, but if I can see buyers trying once, buyers trying twice, now we know where their stops are, right? The stops are just waiting to get lit up like a Christmas tree here. If I can get these buyers trying a couple times, remember, lower low in price, right? Lower low in price. If I can get that bull trap, remember, a bull trap requires a strong signal candle closing below the moving average. You guys know this if you're taking my free trading classes, but that will signal, right, that pullback going lower. Now we find ourselves back around what was previous resistance, and now we look for really one of two things. One would be, do we get the bears coming in trying to short this thing back into that trading range? If they fail, we can use a failure pattern, right? A classic failure pattern, well, not a classic one, a two-try failure. At this point, we have to assume they're trying to run this thing back down into that trading range. Let them try once, let them try twice. We can use what's called a two-try failure pattern. You know me, I love traps and I love to run stops. In my experience, the easiest way to make consistent money is to buy as low as you can with traps, right? And then again, speaking of traps, try to trap in this case, the sellers below that 21 moving average and use their stops as fuel, right, to run this thing back up to retest the high. So again, on a breakout pullback scenario, and again, this is almost identical what happened late last week, if you recall. We're going higher, looking to buy low as I can, right? Because of the 60-minute clue, bear trap. And then again, crown reversal. It's a failure in a trap pattern roped together. And a two-try failure. Targets going up, back up to retest the high. Now, I do want to bring one thing to your attention, right? If this thing rolls over, all right, if they roll over, you know where they want to go. They want to go back down into that trading range. So watch what happens oftentimes is we'll get that breakout, we'll get that crown reversal, but then what will happen is it'll punch and begin to grind down like this. If you see that grind down, that's your giveaway. All right. Remember, anytime we grind down like that, just draw that trend line off that low. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I would expect it to pull back. The bears will try. If they fail a couple times, we can buy into those stops, right? Again, it's a breakout pullback. Very simple breakout pullback setup. But if they don't fail, right? If this thing kind of slips and falls and begins to grind and grind and grind, you'll know this when you see it. There's one right here, right? There's one right there, right? That is exactly the same thing, right? Pops down, grind, grind, grind. What do? You mark those swings, you mark those channels, and you short off the top of that channel. I'm just simply kind of drawing on the screen here right now. There's a lot of examples of these, by the way, in the free trading course. But a classic, this happens all the time, right? We make that big run up. It goes almost too far, right? The buyers get trapped in. They try once, they try twice. Their stops get smoked, right? The bottom gets pulled up from underneath it. And as it rolls lower, it pops down and grinds down like that, And again, at that point, we're not chasing it going lower, right? We're not chasing going lower. We're going to wait for that first test. This could be a trap pattern. It could be a buyer failure pattern. It could be a pullback combination. Any of the entry patterns you guys learned in the free trading course. And again, we know where the market wants to go, right? It'll want to take out these big lows down here because what? This is where we expect more buyers to be waiting because buyers are waiting to buy the dips right now. We assume they are, right? Until something changes here for tomorrow. So at this point, now we know whether we pull back now or whether we go higher. We know how to short this thing. We also know too, be very careful being a buyer until we end up down here. We have to get down to support levels below that trading range. Then we can start thinking about being a buyer here. And by the way, how would you do that? How would you buy on the way right back at those lows here? Let's go cover the Nasdaq now. The Nasdaq is very similar to the S&P. In fact, you could probably argue the Nasdaq is even more ripe for a bull trap and a sharp correction here right now. Again, we're overall bullish. I'm not debating that. That range above us acts like a magnet, and we're trying to make our way back up to take out those big highs. That is not the question right now. The question right now is do we think, remember, ranges love to what? Breakout pullback. Is it possible here right now? This could be a range breakout pullback in itself? Absolutely. That's why I said earlier, the Nasdaq almost looks ripe for that sharp correction. Maybe not full reversal, right? We may not end up all the way back down to that low, but it's definitely a difficult spot to want to be a buyer until we start seeing more evidence going higher. But I would imagine some sort of pullback in the event tomorrow wouldn't be totally far-fetched as well here. So Nasdaq seems to be even more ripe for that correction. Now, over on the NQ tick chart, this is a 4,000 tick chart. You can see there in the upper left-hand corner. What's the most important factor now on the Nasdaq? It's a very similar situation, but there's one kind of key difference here in the fact that on the S&P, they hadn't quite broken above that high. The Nasdaq has a pretty convincing break above that high. So I think there's one kind of key difference here, and of course that is that bull channel that we see coming up here from below here. Just like the S&P, I think there's probably money to make here on a bull trap, either with a crown reversal pattern going lower, again, lower low in price, bull trap, or potentially a run lower. And as we go lower, looking for those channels and looking for those traps above, especially in this scenario. You want to sell as high as you possibly can, because what do you have, right? You got that channel, right, coming up off of that low. So not a lot is different there on the Nasdaq for the S&P. I think one key difference though is if we understand how ranges work, and we know that ranges love to break out pullback, we have to respect this area here. Now, what's the problem though? What's the challenge going to be being a buyer right there? The challenge is that ranges love to rotate. So even though I like the idea of being a buyer there, overall bull market, pretty strong move going higher, I like the idea of that breakout pullback, I have to protect myself against what? Against a full-blown, we call pendulum swing. And that basically means the amount we go above the range could easily rotate all the way back below the range. And again, ahead of that event tomorrow afternoon, and of course, big numbers coming later on this week. So I have to be careful being a buyer there right now. So as we pull back, remember how I said earlier, we anticipate the bears trying to short this thing back into that range? That's exactly what I'm looking for here again. Let those bears try it once. Let them try twice. Get their stops in, right? Don't try to pick the bottom. Picking bottoms is a rookie game. I never had good results picking tops and bottoms because, for all I know, it'll keep on going, right? For all I know, it'll keep on going. But once those bears try a couple times, see, now we got the juice we need, right? Now we have the fuel we need. Now we can buy into those stops. We can hit the pain points of those sellers, and we can look for what I would call a failure into pullback combination. A lot of examples of these in the free trading course, failure into pullback combo as we make our way back up to retest the high. Again, though, I do want to see as we pull back, I'm going to want to see evidence. These bears try a couple times here. I'm going to need to see that because, again, this thing could easily drop and begin to grind and grind and grind. You know where they want to go, right? They want to take out these lows if they start grinding. And if they do grind, you know what to do, right? You know how to make money in that scenario. You don't chase it going lower. Whatever you do, do not chase that thing going lower because who's waiting down there? Buyers are waiting down there. Everybody who took shorts, everyone who short the top on this, they'll be taking their profit right there, right? So right when you get in short is right when this thing will pop up. And where's it popping up to? Usually the high of that channel. Draw that trend off the high, off the low, up around that high, look left, find some swings. I'm keeping it simple here right now to keep the video short for you guys here on YouTube, but we'll go into a lot more detail of how to trigger the proper entry on that inside that free video course I mentioned earlier. I use that free video course to give you guys more detail on these strategies, but that would be the way to short this thing, right? If it rotates and run lower. Now, if we find our way all the way down in this area, how do I buy down there? Well, what's the problem? What's the problem going to be? If we find ourselves all the way back down, hopefully you guys have made a killing on the way down, but now we find ourselves at support, below a trading range, overall bull market. I like the idea of being a buyer here right now, but what's the problem? Momentum, right? Anytime we see a strong move down, anytime we see a strong move in one direction, we expect a pullback and a retest. So if I see a real strong dump off the high, I have to anticipate that as it pulls back, it's going to want to retest that low. So be very, very careful trying to pick that bottom on that. Again, this is where I like to use stops as fuel. So as we go back to that low and we start pulling back here, again, there's so much momentum coming off of that high, right? It's much stronger than a pullback like that, right? This will be a very, so if we pull back, great spot to be a buyer. But again, let's get those bears to try a couple times during that pullback. Once those bears get caught chasing it, right? Because this is a horrible spot to be selling. I love the idea of the short on the way down, but I'm not going to go chase it and sell at the end of that rotation. It's very important to understand how ranges work. They rotate. Remember, they rotate back and forth, right? So being a bear down here, these are rookies down here, right? These are rookies, small stops, small accounts, short fuses, right? Short risk tolerance. Once those rookies get caught twice down there, once they're in, now we look for that stop run. That's the easiest way to make money, the easiest way to make consistent money, I should say. You know, there'll always be that person that picks the bottom and brags about it, right? But yeah, do that consistently over a long period of time. It's not easy. We all know this, right? If you're watching my videos, right, yeah, you know. It's not easy to get lucky every single day. The easy way to make consistent money is you wait for the pullback, you trap those bears in, and you look for that rip, right, going higher. And remember, when it comes to ranges, we look for failures. We look for failures at the edges and traps as it rotates, right? That's the key. Failures at the edges, right? In other words, wait for sellers to come in, use that two-try failure pattern around the edges, and then as it goes higher, where's it trying to go next? It's trying to rotate back and forth, right? So as we're going higher, we don't want to buy high, because if you buy high, you're walking right into oftentimes a bull trap, and we focus on in this case, bear traps, to buy as it rotates. Okay, learn these two patterns and you'll be almost unstoppable when it comes to ranges. Now remember, I can be a bit more aggressive buying off that low. I don't need that crown reversal. Remember, if I'm looking at short off the top, right, a short off the top right now, we're an overall bull market, right? So I gotta be careful shorting off the top. Once we find our way down around these lows, I can be a lot more aggressive, relatively speaking, because we expect there to be a lot of buyers down there. I just have to protect myself against momentum, because momentum is very strong going lower. So wait for those bears to try twice, use those stops to fuel, and then as we make our run back up again, that's exactly what we start looking for, those bear traps, right? Traps as it rotates, failures at the edges, and traps as it rotates. That's the way we're looking, right, to do this tomorrow morning. As you can see, a lot of really good setups on our radar tomorrow. Plenty of ways to make money. Now, tomorrow morning, get that big event tomorrow afternoon, CPI on Wednesday. The markets are probably not going to make it super easy on us. There'll be some curveballs tomorrow. There'll be some things we don't expect tomorrow. That's exactly why we have our trade room. Every morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, we get together. The plan is all prepped here tonight. We know what we're looking for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll do it together. We'll execute correctly tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock Eastern time with all the members in our morning trade room. I would love to have you there with me. I can't think of any better place to learn and trade along than in our trade room. I'll put all the important links down in the description of the video. I would definitely recommend start with the free classes first, learn the basic strategy, get going on that. That'll get you warmed up and ready to go to trade with us sometime soon in the morning trade room. But I'll put all the trade room information, all the free course links in the description of the video. If you got any questions, questions or you need help getting access to that free course, please don't be afraid to email or call or use live chat. We're always here to help out. So if you got questions or you need help, the easiest way to get help is to call the office or shoot me an email or jump on live chat. We're here to help out every step of the way. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for sticking around late today. It was rollover day. All the charts to be redone today, so lots of extra effort needed in the office today, though. That's all right, though. I wasn't going to finish the day here without getting prepped up for tomorrow. Now, enjoy the rest of your evening out there. Hope you guys had a great, fantastic weekend. Boy, what an amazing U.S. Open. We had football back on TV last. We got Aaron Rodgers tonight, so it is a great time to be a sports fan right now. Have a great rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow morning in the trade room. If not tomorrow night, we'll do it again. Be well, be nice to each other out there, and be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.